Hey there, you are watching the playing portion of Power Up. I'm Maude Garrett, that is Trisha Hirschberger. We actually have a guest on this week because they've been playing a game that they have been dying to talk about. So please welcome Troy Baker as our guest for this Power Up. What is about Ghost of Tsushima?
So, I mean, I'm a little biased because I love Sucker Punch, not only because they were gracious enough to cast me in Second Son, infamous Second Son, but they're just such a great, the ethos of the studio is such that it's very Marvel in the fact that they believe in the overcoming of obstacles is what makes a hero, and they're definitely telling superhero stories. And they do it in an incredibly unique way. I am not in this game. I'm not in any way endorsed or sponsored by them. I just really, really love Brian Fleming and Billy Harper, Nate Fox and that team that have they worked their ass off on this game for years. Like they've been working on this since they shipped Second Son. So that was 2014.
Wow. Yeah.
So they shipped Second Son. They did First Light. They knew they were going to do the standalone DLC for that. They did that, and so probably 2015 is when they started this. Like 5 years. Now, if you're Naughty Dog or whatever, or Rockstar, and you can do like, hey, we're going to spend $1 gajillion in development and everything, then fine. Sucker Punch, while they're a first-party studio, it doesn't have that kind of latitude. Not really anybody does, and unless you are shipping like God of War or something that's like, holy crap, you sold 1 gajillion copies. So the thing that I really admire about them is that I feel like instead of just going, let's just make a game, they really looked at what kind of game they wanted to make first. And then they created a world and characters and a story around that. And it's super rewarding. And they also looked and go, we love this about this, and we love this about this. It feels like Breath of the Wild meets Red Dead meets Assassin's Creed meets Shadow of Mordor. It's just super satisfying game mechanics. Like the fighting combat system is incredible. The way that they tutorialize and the way that they use the mechanics, like everyone's talking about the wind mechanic, and I'm so used to like in GTA or in Red Dead or whatever, it's like you got your mini map, you see where you're at the blip on the mini map. But they were so focused on the aesthetic, so much so that they put a Kurosawa mode in there that makes it look like it's like the 1954 Seven Samurai.
Right. Are you playing that mode?
I did, and it is hard. I don't realize, and I hopefully the whole art team is going, yes, there's a lot of thought that gets put into all the colors that are in this. But it is cool to play, and it makes for amazing pictures too. And the photo mode is like one of the easiest that I've ever had to use. But it's doing this weird thing where this is kind of a trend in games where it's forcing me to be in conflict with the game, and they're representing that as a character. So like there's a fundamental mechanic in the game that the character is like, I don't want to do that, and so it's this weird thing that they're doing. Yeah, and like narratively, it's predicated upon that, and so that's kind of like setting up the kind of person that you want to be, which Sucker Punch always does that. I haven't seen if their karma system is really going to play out the way that I'm such a nerd. Excuse me.
Welcome. This is where you should be, Troy. Welcome home.
What's the karma system all about?
Oh, Joey. The combat system is like one of the best things. And the reason why I say Shadow of Mordor, number one, the way that they present a lot of the cinematic moments are done very in-game.
Okay.
So while you're not necessarily on stick, it's not these big movie moments where it's just kind of like lives in the world. You stumble upon someone and they're like, hey, there you are. And
it's so much more intense than that in Shadow of Mordor. I remember like Matt Mercer and he would do that, like, because I told him I was really, really into Shadow of Mordor, and he was on a podcast, and every now and then he'd be like, Joy, you! And I'm like, oh God.
But does Ghost of Tsushima have the Nemesis system?
Dude, I don't know why. There had to be a way that they like somehow locked that thing, like patented it, because no
so
one's done it
good.
yet.
That remembering recognition. Oh, I've already killed you, and you're like, yeah, really badly.
or even just how procedurally you can change the look of a character based on what you did with him. It's just like that's incredible. I'm having fun, but it's always like super daunting, and especially coming off of playing The Last of Us Part 2, where it's like this game is on rails and it's incredibly long, and is exhausting. Like when I got done with it, it's like, holy crap! I think I clocked 28 hours, maybe a little bit more.
On Ghost of Tsushima or Last of Us 2?
Last of Us.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in deep. This one was like, all right, here's a whole open world, and you go, oh my god, like there's so much before, like even just to get into the game is they pace it out well. Like this is gonna be a big, I don't know how long they're clocking it in. Like God of War was like, how long of a campaign was it? I know Red Dead was like 40-hour campaign.
So long.
So I do like those. I definitely think that they're wanting to, and I don't think there's a multiplayer component. Trisha, do you know if there's a multiplayer component to it?
For Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah.
Not that I know of, but to be fair, I haven't personally dived into it yet because I want to finish my Last of Us 2 playthrough, and I'm only playing it when I'm on stream. So that's why it's been so spaced out that I haven't finished it yet.
Ghost of Tsushima is completely offline, single-player experience. There is no online multiplayer, leaderboards, co-op, or any kind of online connectivity.
Thank you, fact checker Maude.
Aussies make great computer voices.
It's the only work I get, pretty much.
Yeah, I was gonna say those are all your famous VO credits, right, Maude?
Yeah, AI.
You might know me
Heal
from
AI, good AI, heal AI. Yeah.
I love it.
The world needs good AI.
So Troy, is Ghost of Tsushima, would you describe this as like your type of game? Like when you're like, what types of video games does Troy like? Would this be a like heck yes or not so much?
It depends. By and large, I love good third-person action adventure. That's like Naughty Dog games, right? So third-person action adventure, narrative-driven, kind of on rails stories. But I also do love games that allow me to, like Shadow of Mordor, GTA, Red Dead, Ghost, where it's like drop into the world, and I don't necessarily want to do like, okay, you know, plug away and log 2 to 3 hours to get you through this thing. Just like just live in the world. I'm going to go pick up some flowers, or I'm going to do a couple of standoffs and, you know, just satisfactorily, you know, drive my katana through somebody's face and let them, it's the way that they do it too, where people always look surprised that they just got killed. It's always like, how? And it's so satisfying. It's not a button mash like at Assassin's Creed it was always like, all right, I can just kind of do this, and you end up kind of turning into Neo by the end of it. You know, just kind of like, you know, it's not too challenging. It's fun and it's repetition. This is every time, at least for me so far, it's been like you got to parry at the exact moment. You have to dodge at the exact moment. So it's
I'm not so great with that.
Neither am I. I'm a great button masher.
More or less difficult combat than like a Witcher 3?
Different.
Okay.
There's a lot of comparisons that people make in Witcher 3. I would say that it is different than Witcher 3, but the vibe is very, very similar.
Okay.
A lot of people have been drawing comparisons to Arkham as well, and I'm like, no, because it's not, or Shadow of Mordor, there's nothing better. You're like, how high can I get my hit count? You know, that was always super satisfying. You're like 65, like I am crushing it right now. And you just feel like a god. This isn't, at least so far, this isn't that. Yeah, that exact thing. I haven't gotten there yet. I wouldn't be surprised knowing Sucker Punch if they end up doing that. But right now, it's like, this could be a game. I talked to a buddy of mine. He's like, I've been playing it for weeks. I'm like, whoa. All right, so it's one of those. You put it in your driver, you download it, and that's just kind of what loads up automatically.
I'm kind of interested. Like, I think I need a bit of an open world adventure again because I'm playing Final Fantasies, you know, at the moment, the 7 remake, and it's super linear. You know, sometimes you'll have like 2 or 3 quests to choose from, but to progress through the storyline, like it's super linear, and I need to flex a little bit more. I need to run out there. And I kind of miss also unlocking portions of the map. And I think it was Shadow of Mordor, or is it Assassin's Creed that did it first? One of them, where you climb the tower, you unlock that area, you kind of get the area.
That's Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
That's people still go like, oh well, Assassin's Creed was so repetitive. I'm like, dude, I loved it. I loved skipping around the rooftops of Aker and just unlocking towers and doing it never the leap of faith never got old for me. Every time
Yeah,
I was
that
like, I would
whistle.
do it for fun.
So
Yeah.
Troy, I know we were talking about this, I think, before we went live. We were talking about Comic-Con. Speaking of Leap of
Yeah.
Faith, were you at San Diego Comic-Con the year they had the real life Leap of Faith set up, and did you do it?
Yes, and absolutely not. That's why I play video games.
Same answer. Absolutely same answer. I tried to do the obstacle course in there, and I saw someone do like the run up the wall, and they had to. As soon as I tried to get up that first wall, this is the first portion, so I'm like 5-10% through this obstacle course. I immediately was like, I don't want to be in this. And thank God that when I did it was like a rope that you had to, get yourself over. I was so tall that my feet were dragging, so I would just walk through that portion. But I was like, it was content source fed, and the camera's in my face, and I'm kind of like, guys, I don't want to
do this.
That's
I don't wanna do
the
this
leap
anymore.
of faith that I did mod was for SourceFed back in the day with a GoPro strapped on me. And I had to do the leap of faith, and I'm like pretty afraid of heights. So it was terrifying. And to this day, I don't know that I've talked to another like nerd friend that actually did it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Raina Scully did it with me for the video. So
Sasha,
Raina did
I
it.
would
But
not. Yeah.
you didn't do it at all, Mod?
You ever-
No. I would rather quit my job, and I nearly have actually been fired from a job because I was signed on when I was a Nickelodeon host. It's like one of the theme parks. I had to do the top 5 most terrifying rides there, but they didn't clear it with me. And I was like, I don't want to do this. And everyone on set was just like, you have to do it. And I was like,
Watch
no,
me
I
quit.
don't.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
And
Watch
I
this.
like
Yeah, I
that.
quit.
And then the producer, there was like a freelance producer, and she, thank goodness, she was like, how funny would it be if every single time the ride started, she would actually sneak off, and then the male co-host was on his own and had to do every ride by himself, and she pretended to do it.
Nice.
And then we cut to me being on the Door of the Explorer, airplane ride in the kids park. And even then I was like, this is a little high. Like, I know it's like 15 feet off the ground. I'm not liking this either as a joke.
I would wait in line with my friends, and they're like, "Oh my god, man, can you believe this? This ride, the anal raper or whatever. It was like the whatever stupid thing that they came up with. Like, I don't. Yeah, we're good. I can't wait. It does the thing where it lifts your nose back, and then it like slaps you around a little bit, and then it flips you around, and then makes you throw up, and then you have to drink your throw up, and then do it all over again. I can't wait. Let's do it." And we would get on the ride, and as soon as like, "All right, everybody, get online, the anal reaper," and you're like, "Okay," and the thing would come up, and then they would get in, and I would literally jump out and go to the other side, be like, "Bye, guys."
Yeah,
I would waste my entire day at the amusement park just to, there's like, they would think that I'm going to do this right. Like, "Dude, what are you doing?" It's like, I'm never going to get on that. Or like, "Oh, I got a phone call on a cell phone that I don't have." And I would just leave.
Okay, real important.
No.
Actually, this is bothering me at the moment because I was seeing, I've joined TikTok, and someone that you go around sort of like an office or a workplace where, there's all the generations. There's boomers, X, Ys, and millennials. And they go, the question is like, what is the signal to be on the phone? Guys, Gen Z do this.
No.
Yeah. They don't know that that's a phone because they never had
They have to hold their phone.
But
like this.
no one holds their phone with a flat.
But you're not holding your phone like this.
Oh,
This is
it
the
looks
shape
like
of
a phone.
That is the old school original receiver that you would pick up that
Wow.
would have the speaker and the listening device. They have
You
never
know what?
seen that or witnessed.
They have never known the truly sublime satisfaction of hanging up on someone to prove a point.
Oh, that clunk. Yeah.
You hear it.
Even worse than that. Hi there, Mr. Peterson. I was just wondering if I could please speak to John. Who is this? It's Maude. We're in science class together. One second. There's a girl. Yeah.
Dad, get off the phone. Get off the phone. Or my favorite was always, if you never had to double tap the plastic piece that actually stick up out of the receiver so you could get call waiting. How about that one, guys?
Yep.
Yeah? You want to talk about there?
Mm-hmm.
Like, hold on a second. I got another call. Check, clack. Hello. How about this? Show of hands if you had your own phone line when you were a kid.
Wait, phone line, like your own number or your own
Yeah.
like phone in your room?
Either.
I had one of those clear 80s phones where you could see all the multicolored wires inside them. I had one of those in my bedroom.
Troy,
So
please give me a
could I call your phone, or did I have to call the house?
No, you had to call the house. And my mom would always be listening in on any call.
I always do this to Pam. I was like, hey, let me ask you a question. If you were after school, go to your fridge and open it up, did you have like drinks in there just for you? She's like, of course, like rich kid.
Yeah.
my
I
God.
definitely.
If you never had to go to get an unmarked silver canister of powdered drink and pray to God that you got those proportions right, because too much sugar and you would shake for the rest of the day, or not enough and it would be pucker face for life. That's being like everybody else is like, if you had a straw that you could put into a pouch, you were a rich kid.
We weren't allowed
If you had
caffeine.
cable, you were a rich kid when I grew up.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Chat is going crazy because they have a lot of questions for Troy, and Maude and I have been hogging all of your time. So we're going to bring in Amy. We shall see if Amy's available. We were having some technical issues before we went live today, so everybody keep your fingers crossed. Let's see if this works. We might have audio only, Amy, today, which is fine. Welcome, Amy.
Hi.
Hi. Amy is here to guide us through...
Amy.
Ooh.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah, I got
Amy's
you.
here to guide us through Bombs Away Q&A.
Okay, all right, let's go. So yes, this first question is from Patreon. I will be getting one from Twitch. This one's from Steven Summers. Has a character ever gotten stuck in your head after a project finished? Or are the lines between Troy and the characters you play very clear in your mind?
What?
So, Amy, yeah, go ahead, Maude. Did you hear it?
If you've ever done a project and the character is stuck in your mind to after you've done the job, and I didn't hear the second part.
And the second part was, or are the lines between Troy and the characters you play very clear and differentiated?
The answer to both questions is yes. Fortunately, the character that I am the least like is Joel. The least like. Fortunately. I would never want to know the loss that man knows, nor the hardships that man has had to endure, any of that. There are times, though, when not the line between Troy and the character, but what Troy wants. It feels weird talking about myself in the third person, and what the character needs. And that is when a lot of times the result of that battle would be Neil and I coming into conflict, because there's moments in The Last of Us where I originally was pushing against ideas that absolutely had to happen, needed to happen for the character. And I can get super protective, as a lot of people can as well, because we all have our version of these characters. And so I pushed against that. But that is where I no longer see the character and I just see myself. And the second that I remove myself from the character, then I'm allowing myself to see that character for who they really, really are. And that, to me, is truly loving that character. If you selflessly love that character versus selfishly love them, that to me is the goal. Not only as an actor, but also as just someone who is not a purveyor, but experiencing the content.
I love that question. Amy, have we got one from Twitch chat?
We do.
With audio.
This next one is from Himura Jube. Troy, who's your dream character to do a voice for?
Man, so I used to tap dance around this around this answer, and I always come up with something super clever. It's like the next one that chooses to hire me. But then I was like, I'm going to be honest about this. And when because we've got the Avengers game that's coming up, and we were on set one day, and Bill Roseman, who's the head of Marvel Games, is on set, and he's just the biggest nerd and huge comic book guy, and he and I would just go like super deep dive into comic books and stuff. And I walked up to him one day and I said, so I just want to say this for the record. Should you guys ever decide to do a Daredevil game, I just want to be in the room. I just want to be in the room. Like, if you go with somebody else, you want to bring in Charlie Cox, I would totally understand that. But it was like, why Daredevil? I'm like, well, 2 reasons. Number one, there are a lot of people, like my first graphic novel that I ever bought was a Batman graphic novel. It was an origin graphic novel, and it was a super small mini one. That got me into comic books, period. I used to travel with my dad, and he would go off and do his business, and the towns where he was going to had town squares. So like they were often East Texas country bumpkin towns. And so I would always go and find a comic book store. And I remember I would try to stay there as long as I could until they kicked me out. Read as many issues as I could, because I typically would be given like $1 to go like entertain myself for 8 hours and feed myself. And so at that time, you could either get like the really expensive trades, or you could get like, here's this one's 75 cents or this one's 50 cents, whatever. Daredevil I could afford. I could a lot of times afford 2 of them. So I got into Daredevil, and I would read them back and forth, and just analyze and study them. And that character was so great, because what Marvel specifically does, and Stan Lee was so good about doing, is the same thing as like Ghost of Tsushima and what Sucker Punch does too, is they have their heroes are ones that overcome adversity. And I love that story, because it wasn't so much about what you were inherently given. Someone said that Marvel is or man becoming God, and DC is God becoming man.
Whoa.
And I love that analogy, because it's so true. It's us starting off from a place. Look at Peter Parker bit by a spider, Matt Murdock, blinded by chemicals, and overcoming that. It's just all of these things are always about how can you, Fantastic Four, how do you overcome these obstacles? And how can you turn that into your superpower? And the beauty of what Matt Murdock does too, he kicks ass at night. He's a vigilante by night, and he's a pro bono lawyer by day. And I was just like, dude, that's someone I can get behind. So Bill Roseman goes, all right, good to know. So like somebody tweets out, they're like, Spider-Man, we love Spider-Man. What other franchise would you love to see? And I just simply tweeted out, I was like, ahem, Bill Roseman, cough, cough. And he responded, because he had nothing. He was like probably, in traffic or whatever. And he was like, we all know you're the man without fear. And boom goes the internet. People are like, holy shit. And Bill had to actually put out, he was like, just to let you know, we are not in production for a Daredevil game. But he asked me, he's like, why do you want to do it? I said, number one, because of my story and my connection with that character. Number two, we play games because that character can do things that I can't. How do you create a game where I can do something the character can't? And that to me is just an incredibly compelling notion for a game. So, long answer to a very, very simple question, but I would say to anybody, Bill Roseman especially, if they decide they want to do a Daredevil game, I just want to be in the room.
Fantastic. Clarification, being in the room is just for being able to read?
No, right. No. Yeah, I want someone to go, all right, let me see what you, in the same way that they let me do that for Joel and for Booker, which I auditioned for both of those roles, for the Joker, which I auditioned for those roles. Let me just show you who I think Matt Murdock is. This 10-year-old that read those comic books and dreamt about being in that red suit. Let me show you what I think who Matt Murdock is. That's all I want.
Ooh, let me just tell you, if they make a Daredevil game and the fight choreography is as good in the game as it was in the Netflix series, I'm on board, hands down. And if it's got your voice on it, then that makes it even better.
Yeah, dude, what they did with that, and again, I had the chance to tell Charlie Cox this too. I was like, I was a huge fan of Boardwalk Empire, but what they did with that character, what Vincent did for Wilson Fisk, I was like, you guys turned this franchise on its head and made it so freaking cool, and just forever changed those rules for me. So yeah, super cool. All right, what else you got?
Cool. All right, well, thank you. So those are our audience questions for the playing portion of the show. Troy, thank you for telling us all about Ghost of Tsushima. We will be back in just a moment to find out what Troy is watching. Stay tuned.